Would you consider yourself to be a shopaholic? Shopping plays a huge part in the clutter in our homes. If we are truly overwhelmed, part of the decluttering process is to stop the clutter at source. But this can be easier said than done. In today's podcast, we're going to talk about ways you can curb your shopping addiction.
You're listening to the Declutter Hub podcast, bringing you tried and tested, no-nonsense tips and advice from the leading experts in decluttering and organising your home. Now here are your hosts, Ingrid Jansen and Leslie Spellman.
Hello and welcome, listeners. I'm Ingrid.
And I'm Leslie.
If you're new to the Declutter Hub podcast, you're so welcome. What you'll find is that we try and find a fun factor in the serious business of decluttering. And if you've been here for a while, you know exactly what we mean. So thank you so much for listening.
If you'd like to get involved in conversations relating to this podcast, it all takes place in our Facebook group. So come and join our lovely, warm, supportive community. To find the Facebook group, go to declutterhub.com/group to find out more, or you can search for the Declutter Hub community on Facebook.
Well, Leslie, I have a feeling this podcast might be a bit like, ooh, they're going to tell us we can never ever shop again. We're going to lose listeners already before they've even listened in, Leslie. So what's the deal today then?
Well, I suppose what we're talking about really, we're talking about shopping, because the bottom line is a lot of the clutter in our homes definitely comes from having acquired it. Sometimes that's for free, of course. So there are things that come into our homes that we get given by other people, that we acquire in various ways that are free. But let's be honest, most of the time the clutter that comes into our home is because we have at some point or other bought it. And some people who love clutter also love to shop. Now, do I think that you can have a clutter-free home and still shop? Yes, I do, because I have that. I still like to shop, not to excess, but so I do have a kind of refresh of things. I like to go shopping. I enjoy that and I enjoy having new things, but I still have a clutter-free home. But it is very relevant in the decluttering process, and it's something that we in the Declutter Hub, we have to stop the clutter at source as well as trying to let go of the clutter that we no longer need. Both of those things are related, right?
Yes, indeed, Leslie, you're absolutely right, because either the stuff comes into our homes and it's free and people give stuff to us, or, we think it comes in when we go shopping. But there's also almost a lot of kind of a bit of an area in the middle. And that's where we think we're doing a good thing by going to charity shops, buying stuff because we want to support the charity, or we're donating something to the charity. Think we'll have a little browse around Goodwill or the charity shop and we see lots of stuff. We think, oh, that is such a bargain. Let me pick up a few bits while I'm here. And our eye catches stuff. And before we know it, we've got a trolley full of stuff and the stuff comes in that way. So it doesn't always have to be shopping from shopping malls or online shopping. That's what I was kind of trying to say.
Yeah, definitely. And there is definitely a benefit of shopping from a charity shop, because what that means is that item has got two lives, right? Or a second life. And so it's good for the environment. It's good to not just keep continually refreshing things. So there's definitely a benefit to that. But it's also a dangerous thing for anybody that is, a shopping addiction. We call this podcast a shopping addiction, but it doesn't necessarily need to be addiction in the clinical sense of the word, but we know whether or not we love to shop, and perhaps our love of shopping is a little bit excessive. I think that's what we're talking about. So what we wanted to talk about in today's podcast was some of the things that you can do, mostly practical, to try and help you a little bit to shift those habits that you've got when you go shopping. So some practical elements in there. There's some emotional elements in there. And first of all, we're going to get started with financing.
I think what's really important when you are struggling with clutter and you kind of overdo it in the shopping in your spare time, you need to start looking at a budget. It's really, really crucial. You need to know how much money is coming in, how much is going out to essentials, how much is going out to food and heat and water and rent or mortgage and those kinds of things. and what's my budget to play with, and what kind of money have I got left over for all the other stuff, because the list of all the other stuff is so long as well. And if you've got a lot, if you've got a family as well, everybody's got their activities and their things. So you have to, create a budget and look at that and go, how much money is there actually in the pocket that we can spend on other bits?
So I think there's different ways why you would choose to have a budget, right? So the first one, of course, is so you can stick to that budget and not go over it. But I think budgeting allows you to be really honest and get a very visible view of what you're spending on things. And I
Hmm.
think that's very, very important to see that. It's almost like we talk quite a lot about doing an inventory in your home, don't we? To kind of confront yourself. It's almost a confronting behavior to show you, and sometimes that is certainly the excesses of shopping in the past, or not intentional shopping, or however you want to look at that. And this serves the same purpose, which is that we look at this thing and we actually go, wow, those are all of the things that I bought this month, this quarter, whatever that is. And it can be very confronting, and that can be enough to stop you in your tracks.
Yeah.
I think another thing as well about budgeting is it appeals to the gamification side of people as well. So, particularly when you start using apps and things like that, there's loads of apps out there where you can track spending, you can assign categories to things. And there is a gamification element to it. And that is something that certainly a lot of people in our community really like. They like the game of trying to stick to a budget, trying to have, the apps will say spend 30% on this and 30% on that. And to try and keep within the parameters of the app is a big thing. And so if a gamification is something that you definitely work with. So if you're somebody who loves things like our one item a day challenge, or an A to Z challenge, or some of the things that we do in our membership, if you naturally go for that, then maybe you can budget on an app and that will give you that same kind of buzz of gamification,
Yeah.
which is a big thing, right?
I think it's that visibility, isn't it? Because of course, in the almost like the olden days, we had cash. We had cash in our wallet, and we could just see it go away. You know what I mean? But now, of course, because we pay so much with cards and with apps and with wallets on our phones and things, it's like invisible, isn't it? Poof! And suddenly you're like, how can I? Where's my money gone this month? So I think it's really important to make it much more visible.
It was interesting. I was listening to a podcast actually yesterday, which was all about, it was a really interesting podcast about how I think it's called something like Are We Better Off? This is like a millennials podcast that somebody sent to me, maybe one of the kids. It was about, are we better off? Are we worse off than our parents' generation? This whole thing about that they can't get on the housing ladder and all those kind of things, which is absolutely true. But it was a really interesting concept to listen to, a podcast to listen to, sorry. But one of the things that they spoke about is this concept of younger children now, particularly now we've got Apple Pay and Google Pay, not understanding hard cash. And there was this one lady and she said to her little boy, mummy can't afford to buy that. And he was like, just buy it off your phone. So it's kind of almost,
Yeah.
you've not got a tangible look at what you've got anymore. And it's so easy to just click on your phone within a second. There's no barriers at all. So I think it's really important to recognize how things have shifted, how easy it has become to
Hmm.
buy things. And it's all raveled up in the sort of finance, because people who have to declutter their homes often, fall into financial issues as well as a result of the clutter in their homes. And so all these things are wrapped up together.
Yep.
The first thing on our list, I think it's really, really important to create a budget, stick to it, think about the app side of things, think about the gamification, think about the confronting side of having a budget as well, and not just
Yeah.
the kind of boring sticking to a budget thing, which people are like, I don't want to do that. No one wants to do that. No one wants to confront their own behaviors with shopping,
Yeah.
but it's an important first step to be able to do that.
Yeah. And I think indeed the following, once you've set a budget, like you said, track your spending. How much is going to a daily coffee when you're on the go somewhere, on your way somewhere, and you can quickly nip in and grab a coffee? And how much is going on? Oh, I'll just nip to the shops today to top up my shop. That's kind of a terminology that a lot of people here in the UK use. I'm just going to top up my shop. And in the beginning, I didn't understand what people meant.
Hey, like who says that? Top of my shop.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Have you never heard of that? Yeah,
No.
they're like they're going to
on a
they're
food
like
fair.
they're going like to the small supermarket on the corner just to top up.
Maybe it's like a Bexley
Mhm.
Heath thing.
Oh, like I'm gonna get some milk and some bread and like little bits and bobs. But before you know it, you go out for milk and bread and you
Yeah.
come back with a whole bag full of stuff that you didn't even know you needed. But just
Ingrid's bobbing around with this terminology that none of the no, everybody will come onto the podcast now and say Leslie's being mean as always, and I definitely say top up my shop. Do you know what I mean? I just feel like I can get away with it because I'm like actually British and Ingrid's not, so she just believes if I say that's not a thing.
I
You,
know, but I
you
think
think
it's a thing.
you think it's a thing. Well, it's a thing to you, so that's what's important, right?
Well, anyway, but you now got me whole off track of what the point I was trying to make. And that is if you just indeed come back from work or picking up the kids and just nip across the road to your corner shop to get a couple of bits, before you know it, that's 30 quid. And you went in for a pint of milk, which is, I don't know, £2 or something. I don't even know because everything
You
goes to your.
should know, Ingrid, how much a pint of milk. No, I think you can get 4 pints for £2.
That, because my husband does the shopping. So
I'd say you can get a 4 pint of milk for £2, I reckon.
okay. Well,
My husband.
anyway, perfect. But if you do that every day or multiple times per week, that's what I find interesting when you watch the programs, when they try to help families to curb their spending, especially with food. And it's that they do a main shop or they do a big shop and then they top it up. This is where I got it from, Leslie, with small shops all the time. And then they spend hundreds of pounds every month on food. And I think when you start to track yourself and log it and go, hold on a minute, okay, normally you don't notice the £3, the £4, the £2, right? On if you don't have a very limited budget to work with, but it really adds up. That's what the point I was trying to make.
No, Ingrid, it's a very, very valid point. And so, it's all about that visibility and it's all about looking for where those barriers have been removed by the big companies. And perhaps what we need to do to be kinder to ourselves and to try and break those habits ourselves is try and put some of those barriers back in place. And so let's not put too many barriers because then it's an absolute pain, isn't it? But just the fact that if you've got a credit card, for example, if it auto fills your details and all you need to remember is 3 numbers, which is your, the kind of security number or whatever
Yeah,
it is,
yeah.
that's really easy. Remove that saved payment information, which means that every time you add to basket, if you're sitting in your bed, for example, and your purse is downstairs with your credit cards and all that kind of stuff, then you've got to physically get out of bed to go and do it. There's a barrier in there that means that you go, oh, I'll do that in the morning. And then that kind of dopamine hit of that spend has gone. So things like this are really going to help you remove that saved payment information from your apps. I mean, there's an argument that says that we shouldn't be saving those things anyway, because it's a little bit easy for hackers and spammers and all that to get hold of it. Remove saved payment information, make it less convenient for yourself to make these online purchases. Now, we could go one step further and say, you know what, I'm not going to use Apple Pay. I'm not going to use Google Pay. People use envelope systems where they actually physically take cash out every week if they're going to spend at the shops or whatever and go, I'm going to take £100 out. And then when it's gone because it's that tangible cash. And so we might not want to go that far to go back to a cash-based system. But if it's something that you're really struggling with, it's a possibility for you to use. But, taking away saved payment information perhaps is the first step, taking away Apple Pay or Google Pay off your phone and making it more difficult. But of course, that comes with downsides as well. We need to get ourselves to a stage where actually the impulse has gone away and we can manage our own behaviors.
Yeah.
But perhaps as an initial step, take some of these barriers or put some of these barriers back in place until you train yourself on these other things.
Yeah. I think it's also kind of the same as what you kind of mentioned, like once you sleep over it, it kind of, you're like, oh, the dopamine hit is gone. It's a bit like putting something in your basket, but not yet buying it. Because it's very easy to go, oh, I want to buy this, and have a whole basket full of things, or have even some people have a wish list. You can create wish lists now on loads of sites, not only, Amazon, but also even on days out and holidays and I don't know, whatever. You can create a wish list of things. And then it's very tempting, isn't it, to be completely, but once you kind of put it in your basket, hold off. Just hold off with clicking that buy button. Just say, you know what? I'm gonna leave the screen open, but I'm just gonna sleep on it, or I'm gonna go away and think about it and give myself 8 hours, 24 hours, how long it is, just to kind of go, hold on, do I really, really need it? And lots of times it's like, actually, but I don't need it. I don't need this more stuff. Of course, there are items that you do need and that you definitely can shop straight away. But if it's kind of stuff that's nice to have and not necessary, then give yourself that extra time to stop those impulses. And it's the same, when you drop stuff off at the charity shop, only go to the drop off point and say, I'm not going to go into the shops. I mean, difficult, very, very, very difficult. But if you know that all that shopping is cluttering up your home and you haven't got that balance right, and that's what it's all about. Not enough stuff is leaving your house. Too much stuff has come into your house, and there's a block in your home of stuff. Then you need to both work on the exit plan, but also work on that stopping of clutter coming in. And that's what we're trying to achieve here. We don't say never, ever, ever go shopping again, because that's impossible.
Yeah, well, it's not impossible. I don't know. Is it impossible? Do we think it's impossible?
To never, well, you have to kind of buy food, right?
Yeah, I suppose you do. Yeah, but other things, do we think it's impossible to never go shopping again? It is really, isn't it?
Yeah, I
There's always
think it
going to be
really.
something that you need, right?
Yeah. And there's always, something broken or something that needs to be fixed, or, so I do think not shopping is quite impossible, unless you maybe live some in a rural place somewhere that you kind of,
But you still got to get your stuff from somewhere, haven't you?
yeah,
You just have to do it in a different way, get it
yeah,
online.
definitely, definitely. Well, let's go for a break and let's talk some more after the break. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I hope you're still with us.
Yeah, exactly. Before the break, Ingrid, we were talking about trying to put barriers in place to stop yourself from shopping, whether that be taking saved payment information out of carts, or disabling, if that's even possible. I don't even know whether Amazon will let you, the kind of one-click ordering sort of thing that they've got, or making sure that you have a wait period. Because the thing is about shopping is it's all based on emotion and habit. And that's what we're trying to break, isn't it? And so we have to put things in place. It's all, but the reason why we shop quite often is because we feel an emotion, whether that's, we don't feel great about ourselves and we want to fix that. We feel as if we're struggling. We feel like we've had done a really good job that week, and so we want to treat ourselves. It's all based on emotional feelings. And that's what we've got. Ultimately, that's where we want to get to, that we can curb those emotional feelings and that we don't shop as a result of that. But it takes time. So, what we see in our membership, Ingrid, of course, is we see people going on a journey of decluttering first and foremost, where the primary motive is to let go of things in your home. So when you're overwhelmed with clutter, you just think about the sort of getting rid side of things, or the keeping of the things that you really want. So depending on which way you look at it, both are interlinked. But then further down the line, we're so happy with the way that we have done with it and the way our home looks and how that all works, that we then don't want to sabotage the good work that we have done by bringing more stuff in, because we recognize, because we've worked through the emotional habits that we've got with shopping, particularly for clothes and things like that. We recognize those habits and behaviors, and we recognize that going shopping for more is just doing more of the same. So, but it takes a while. So we see people going on a journey of letting go and then moving into that mindset change of stopping the clutter at source. But it takes a while, and you can't do all of the things at the same time. You can't go never going shopping again and letting go of every single thing that I don't need in my house. We always use the phased approach, and that's the best way. So if you can go down this route of trying to understand your own behaviors and emotions and tap into that and really understand and go, yes, when something comes up, when you're trying to shop, and that is why I feel compelled to buy that thing. That's what this is all about. So before you get to that mindset change, which is the kind of ultimate goal, I guess, of a decluttering journey, we need to practice, and we need to practice it with intentional shopping. Now, we've spoken about this many, many times on the podcast before. You will hopefully be aware of what that means. But just in case you don't, or you want a reminder, it's all about shopping with a list, making sure that when you do shop for anything, whether that's clothes, whether that's food, whether that's other things in your home, that you do that intentionally and you don't just float around a shop and see things that grab your attention because they're cheap, because they're lovely, because they're on an end plinth in a supermarket. And so you're succumbing to the marketeer's dreams. It's so important to recognize how your desires are being sabotaged by other people, other things at play. And so if we shop intentionally, we only go out to buy, so Ingrid was giving that example of a pint of milk before. You go in, you intentionally shop, and you know that all you want is that milk, and you don't go, oh God, I need this. Oh yeah, I need that. Oh, that would be nice because that's on offer. Oh, well, actually, that's cheap. And so it's on that kind of bargain bin. Why don't I get that? Because that's going to come in. And maybe we can get ourselves to a stage where we can make shop purchases like that, but knowing what the intention with those is going to be long term, and that it's financially beneficial for us.
Yes, Leslie, you're absolutely right. Emotions and habits are so connected to everything we have in our homes. And that's what we're all about, isn't it? We are about tackling those emotions and habits because you need to understand those emotions and habits before you can do any decluttering. And we need to help you on your way with that. So the nice thing is that if you're thinking to yourself, actually, I am struggling with the emotions and habits. I am finding it hard to pass by those bargain bins. I always tempted when I go out to the shops to get that other thing. I'm not completely sure what I've got in my home. My wardrobes and my cupboards are all overflowing. And every time I open the cupboard doors, things are falling out. I've got too much. Please come and join us for a challenge next week. We've got a Clear Out Your Clothes challenge coming up. We're starting on Tuesday, the 4th of June. If you haven't signed up yet, come along and join us because we're going to talk in detail about how those emotions and habits are keeping you from decluttering and organizing, but we're going to give you loads of practical tips and advice as well. We would love for you to join us for this challenge, and you can go to declutterhub.com/clear out to sign up and to join us for a 3-day fun challenge.
Yeah, so if you listen to this after the June 24, then you've missed the opportunity. But do go and sign up because we have regular challenges in our membership. And if you go to declutterhub.com/waitlist, you can sign up for the next one. So I'm excited to do it. It's 2 years, Ingrid, since we did our Clear Out Your Clothes challenge. Very, very well received last time. Can't believe it's been 2 years,
I
really.
know.
And so yeah, it's a great challenge, and we dig deep in the wardrobes, closets, and clothes in our home, which is a massive sticking point for some people. It's completely free when you sign up. So again, as Ingrid said, declutterhub.com/clear out, and we will make sure that all the details are in the show notes for this podcast as well. So we wanted to talk about a couple of other things that are really important that can help you along your way to curb your shopping addiction. And one of the things that we see all the time, particularly when we're working in people's homes, Ingrid, because this is when it kind of it confronts us as professional organizers, we see parcels, returns, bags of stuff that have come from shops, and often the return period has elapsed. Is that a word? Elapsed? Yeah, I think it is.
I think it's lapsed.
Oh, is it lapsed? Lapsed. Okay, Ingrid's pulling me up now, but
Yes.
I think I prefer elapsed. That's definitely a word, right? Elapsed. Definitely.
Okay, well, you're asking me now. I don't know.
Come on, listeners, tell us lapsed or elapsed. I'm sure there's two of them. But anyway, doesn't really matter. I think one of the things that we see all the time when we're, particularly at Ingrid, when we're working one-to-one with clients, is that people don't like to try clothes on. And I completely get it. I completely get it. If you don't feel great for whatever reason, if you're busy, if you've got kids with you, there are many reasons why we don't want to try clothes on in the shop when we're looking at them. But if we can, it's really useful to do that because we can take all of those things out. Because what we see all the time in homes is that things go back and they don't find their way back to the shop. And so not only have you bought the money, then you've kind of wasted the money because you can't use it. Very important as well with parcels. If you have got a bit of a shopping addiction and you are continually buying parcels, you need to open these parcels on the day that they arrive. If you have parcels in your home that are arriving through the door and you don't even know what's in them, that's a bit of a red flag in terms of that you've not got control over what you're shopping. You should know what's landing through your door on a daily basis. You should open that parcel straight away as soon as it comes in, and you should have a plan to return it. So really, really important to get control of this process of things coming in. Hopefully by trying things on in the shop, then things don't come in that you don't need. Then we've got the online side of things. Of course, we typically online order multiple sizes because we're not quite sure how it's all gonna work out. But make sure that you have a good process in place. The amount of money that we see as professional organizers being hemorrhaged away by people not having control of returns is staggering, isn't it, Ingrid?
I was going to say the same word, Leslie, staggering, honestly. And it's not only clothes, it's shoes, everything. The package gets half opened, something else happens, people get sidetracked, packages get buried under other stuff. People forget, it happens. Life is busy. And then before you know it, that 20-day or 28 or 30-day return time is gone. They're quite stricter in the UK, aren't they, with the return times? I think in America, there's much more leeway returning stuff months and months and months later. But
Do
we
we
don't
know
have.
this, Ingrid? Do we know this? Or
No,
is
no,
this
I think
something
that,
that we're
no,
thinking
no,
about from the 90s when we were living in the States?
no.
Like,
I think it's.
have you returned stuff to a shop in America anytime recently? I'm
No, I
like,
I think one of our members was talking
all right.
about it, right?
Right.
So, but
Yeah.
oh my gosh, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean here they're on it. Like, you know, you have to bring it within the specified time. Otherwise, that's it. You're lost, gone, money's gone. So be on that. Don't let things disappear. And indeed, when you order clothes online, open it and also then schedule time to try it on. Then don't leave it somewhere in your bedroom under piles of dirty laundry and floor drops to be found 3 months later and go, oh yeah, of course, I ordered these clothes. And that's when we see clothes with tags, when we see wrong sizes. So much money is wasted. And that's what we don't want for you.
And it sounds like we're being really judgmental of that, Ingrid, but we just see it's never a good thing, is it? And it's just about getting that control, and we see how it evolves and then how distressing it becomes for people because then
Yeah.
people feel shame, having wasted things. And so
Yeah.
it's just important to get those processing. What we'd prefer is for these things not to come in the first place, you know what I mean? Unless you really want them, unless they're, adding to your life. That's the important thing. But if you have to go through this process of ordering or not trying things on in the shop, then make sure you've got a solid process for taking things back because it's all just negative and that's not what we want.
Yeah.
I think the final thing that we're going to talk about, Ingrid, and this is a bit of a bugbear of ours, it's something that we talk about all the time. We are big advocates of unsubscribing from things, email lists, from retailers in particular that try and bombard you with sales and marketing. So it's necessary if it's something, we have an email list. We email people out with offers that we put out with offers, with education. There's good things that come with that. But if it's not serving you, unsubscribe because you don't need these things putting in front of you. So it's really, really important that you have control over your email subscriptions. Make a point of unsubscribing.
Yeah.
I think also we get caught out by online receipts because every time in the shop that they say, do you want an online receipt? Inadvertently, we're signing back up to a mailing list that we may have already unsubscribed from. So as soon as you opt for an online receipt, you're back on the mailing list and you're back in that cycle of sales and marketing bombardment.
You're so right, Leslie, because I actually had to have something repaired. A little jewelry from Anne was broken, and I wanted to have it repaired. She really wanted to have it repaired. Online receipt, and now I'm getting emails from them, and I'm like, I don't want to buy any jewelry or necklaces or anything. So I'm like, that's the next thing when I see it come in, unsubscribing because I don't want it because they try to trick you, and then you get tempted, and they throw an offer in, or they see, all the nice pictures of all the new stuff. And I'm like, but I don't need new stuff. I like my old stuff. But that's me, isn't it? But I am going to come clean, Leslie. I did buy something the other
Ooh,
day.
Ingrid bought something.
No, I bought myself a new little purse. So
Nice.
yes, I did. So I know you know that I don't shop a lot. So I ran into some people and they're like, "Oh," I'm like, "I know you've actually caught me shopping."
They're like, are you feeling okay,
I
Ingrid?
know. Is everything all right
Testing
with
yourself.
you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think
Yes.
that's it. And so it seems like, it's hard. This is hard stuff. And this is something that you can practice at. But honestly, if you do feel like you've got a bit of a shopping addiction, shopaholic, whatever you want to call it, then this typically comes much later. There are things that you can do to try and help yourself along the way,
Yeah.
but don't expect those habits to change overnight.
Yeah.
But, by putting some of the barriers back in, by unsubscribing, and by making sure you've got a robust returns policy, you can try and help yourself along the way until you've got those emotions and habits that solidified, until you understand the triggers that are making you shop for things that you perhaps don't need or want. And then you can start to really go on this transformational journey when you don't even buy anything that's not going to enhance your current life.
Yeah.
But it can be a long, drawn out journey, right, Ingrid?
Yeah, for sure. And definitely, I know I want to mention it again, Leslie, because our challenge can really help because the Clear Out Your Clothes challenge gives you really good visibility of what you currently have and to go through those wardrobes. And in this challenge, we're going to work together. We're going to talk about the emotions and habits. We're going to talk about decluttering, the questions you need to ask yourself, how to organize your wardrobe, and all of those things to get greater visibility so you don't fall in the trap of, oh, I have nothing to wear. And that makes you then go shopping. Well, actually, I have loads of stuff to wear. I just forgot that I had a lot of it because it was all buried. It was all in there. And that's exactly what this challenge is all about. So come and join us next week. And don't forget to sign up on declutterhub.com/clearout.
So, Ingrid, shopping addiction curbed.
Oh,
Yes or no? Well, you
I,
definitely don't have one.
I think, these things really, really can help, but it's all about the small steps moving forward, right? You can't do all, like we always say, decluttering and organizing is a journey. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's small steps forward. And if you're thinking to yourself, oh gosh, yeah, I really need to do something here, which point has resonated with you? Which are you thinking to yourself, that's what I'm going to do. That's where I'm going to get started. Please let us know. We would love for you to tell us in the comments. And we'll be interested to hear from you. And thanks so much for being here. We look forward to seeing you again next week.
Thanks so much for listening to the Declutter Hub podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to us in your podcast player so you don't miss an episode, and we'll see you next week.